Hello everyone, welcome back to Women's Writing Shakespeare's Sister. In the last class, we have seen an imaginary history of Judith Shakespeare, a character which is created by Virginia Woolf in order to examine how a woman having the gift of Shakespeare would have been treated during the 16th century. Today, we are moving on to the 8th paragraph. We have seen what would have happened if a woman had Shakespeare's genius at that time. We cannot expect a Shakespeare to be born among working class or uneducated class. Even today, a genius like Shakespeare cannot be expected to come from working class. How can then a woman with Shakespeare's genius come from women? See, we have seen that Shakespeare came from a very rich family. He had Latin education. He went to a grammar school nearby. Family was rich. He liked hunting. He was free enough to travel to London and had many advantages. That is why it is said that Shakespeare cannot be expected to be born from a working class family. And not even a working class family will not be able to produce a genius like Shakespeare. Then, how can we expect a writer of genius coming from women? That is what Virginia Woolf is asking. Still, some great writers came from women folk later, like Emily Bronte, Charlotte Bronte, etc. Just like Robert Burns came from working class. At that time, women who were shown some spirit of freedom were branded as witches or regarded as possessed by devil. When we read about such news, we must understand that she is or was a creative woman. So creative women were considered as witches. They were regarded as possessed by devils. They were killed. They were burned. So whenever you read a news about a woman burned as witch, you must understand that that woman was a novelist or a poet or a dramatist, something like that. She tried to be a creative person. That is why society killed them. Virginia Woolf says that there are many poems written by an unknown poet named Anon, meaning anonymous, identity not known. Woolf strongly doubts that the poet who signed Anon was a woman. At that time, women were not allowed to use their real name. Writers like Emily Bronte and George Eliot used male pen names. So, moving on to para 9. A gifted woman born in 16th century would have gone crazy, would have gone mad, or they would have committed suicide, or had to go and live far away from the society, or would have branded as a witch. A woman with a poetic gift would be opposed by everyone around her, that she may go mad. No woman could have walked through the streets of London and stood before actor managers without losing her chastity. Chastity was regarded as a criteria for women's purity. Uh, it was so in the 16th century, and it is so even now. It needed great courage to challenge it. To live in London in 16th century as a free woman, as poet, would have killed a woman with stress. Whatever she had written would have twisted to say that it came from an insane mind, from a mad person. Uh, you yourself can, even in the 20th century, uh, a writer like Kamala Das uh, was regarded as an eccentric person. So it was worse in 16th century. So if ever she wrote, she would not have. So that is the reason. That is the reason why many women writers chose to remain as anonymous even in 19th century, or they had to use male names. Currer Bell, George Eliot, George Sand, all were women. Even a famous philosopher from Greece, that is Pericles, uh, remarked that publicity for women is not fair. So anonymity has entered her blood. Thus, she almost lost her desire to imprint her mark in the history. So, unlike man, women lived without any desire to be famous. She never wanted to interfere in others' affairs. She could pass a black woman without having a wish to make her an English woman. See, by this statement, Wolf means that women learned not to force anything upon others, but man wanted to do that always. She means that whenever a man sees a black woman passing by the side of him, he feels that he wanted to make her an English woman. So, women were not like that. So, we have seen para 8 and para 9, and we are stopping here. So before that, you can see the image of Charlotte Bronte, who wrote under the male name Currer Bell. She wrote the famous novel Jane Eyre. Then this is Mary Ann Evans, who wrote under the name George Eliot. She was the author of Adam Bede, Melon the Flows, Silas Marner, etc. So we are stopping here, and we will see in the next